I didn't even know about that. I didn't look at it from that angle. Lawi Njeremani, he's here. He's the author of this amazing book called The Trouble with Kenya. Lawi, happy holidays and Happy New Year.
Happy holidays, Kev, and it's a pleasure to meet JP.
Yeah, last time you were here, JP wasn't here.
Yeah,
exactly.
true.
So how's the New Year going so far?
New Year first day, I would say so far so good.
Yeah,
I was meeting a friend. We decided we have fish and ugali today.
Ah, nice.
So we're setting new goals for the new year.
Right.
Eat healthy.
Eat healthy.
Eat healthy.
You know, my cousin told me, Kevin, this year nothing like processed foods.
Right.
Because this whole maneno for sijui cancer nini mezidi, and then you know, when you look at younger guys and how we are so unhealthy, especially when it comes to lifestyles, you know, just some of the choices that we've been making, you know, you think about it and you're like, you know, it's a matter of just making those simple little decisions, like eating healthy, drinking a lot of water, working out, nini. Right. Do you foresee a situation, you know, forget about even lifestyle, just generally in terms of governance, in terms of, you know, social dynamics, are you hopeful about 2025 when it comes to the youth agenda?
True. So we were setting our own goals and saying we're going to eat healthy, but that's the starting point on ourselves. So once we've done that with ourselves, what can we then do with our immediate environment? Of course, governance is another key thing that we need to look at. Mm-hmm. But when you talk governance, it sounds like we're going to the stratosphere.
Wow.
We're still on the ground. There's so many things we need to do before we get to the stratosphere. So am I optimistic about youth? I've shared this in another forum. Maybe I haven't shared this with Kev and JP.
Yeah.
But I've said the window for action, especially for Gen Z, to me, where I sit, is steadily closing. The window for action is steadily closing, which in a way says to me then, I'm not very optimistic. I'm waiting to see certain signs before I can say, there we go. You know, June 25th of 2024 was a there we go moment. Since then, we've been steadily dipping, because people have fragmented, people have gone to canvas for their own individual, could we say, aspirations. I'm using aspirations euphemistically, and I'm saying people have steadily moved to that place where we're saying it's almost like if I get mine, the rest of you guys sort yourselves out. Right. That's where we are.
Yeah, so people become very individualistic. What about the country? Forget even about the youth and the way our government goes about, you know, just running affairs of this country. Are we in the right trajectory?
Right. Now, let me share some numbers with you. Or let me even pause, because, Kev, you know I like to ask questions.
Yeah.
So what is the median age of Kenya? JP, feel free to jump in as well.
Yeah.
Median age. Median age means you draw a curve.
Yeah.
Split it in the middle.
Exactly.
Half will be this, half will be that. That number, what is it for Kenya?
Oh, you know, I don't know my facts, but I would like to guess maybe 19.
Maybe 19.
25?
25.
Yeah.
Thanks. Kev is close to that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
19 is the median age.
Okay.
Actually, it's about 18.
Okay.
So if we're talking about the median age of Kenya being 18, then I'm starting to ask the question, if half the population of 54 million is below the age 18 and half is above 18, the problems we have today, who is taking care of them, or who is causing these problems? And I would say it's the people above 18 that are causing these problems. It could be they're the ones directly instigating the problem or the trouble. I like to use the term trouble. Right. Or they could be the ones who are lethargic and passive about the trouble that is in Kenya today. And then the people below 18 then live with those consequences. They have no, could I say, national ID, so we also always say they have no right then to say anything, or at least if they say anything, we look at them as kids. So once they get to 18 is when then they have a voice. But until then, all these people below 18 are not the cause of our troubles. They live the consequences of us who are above 18, either causing the trouble or being lethargic about the trouble.
I like that. That's,
Wow.
you've really made it so easy for us to understand. But the president was elected to sort out all these problems that we're facing. And right now, when you look at the TOR, if we judge him based on his terms of reference, most guys are saying he's failed. In fact, just 2 days ago, I was having a conversation with a brother known as Fanyamambo. And I told him that it seems like our president is probably the most hated president in Kenya's history. I don't know whether that's factual, but that's what it seems like. Is it mission impossible at this point for the president to turn things around?
Is it mission impossible for the president at this time to turn things around? Let me use this example. I like providing illustrations because through illustrations, then we're able to see where we are. So we're in a position where we have a constitution that we bestowed ourselves in 2010. So this constitution says the citizens, or we the people, are giving ourselves this constitution, and these are the rights that you're going to enjoy in that constitution and all that. Then we're saying in that same constitution, we delegate this power or this sovereignty that we, the 54 million, collectively hold. And we delegate it to the arms of government. The arm of government, executive, another arm is the legislature, another arm is the judiciary. Then we're saying further, we have independent commissions, constitutional commissions. Then we're saying these independent commissions will also undertake the following functions on our behalf. Example, we cannot hold an election as citizens, but we delegate that authority or that sovereignty to the Electoral Commission and say, you undertake this duty on our behalf. Logistically, you're the experts. We believe you'll be able to do a good job. I'm coming to your point about the presidency. So now we're in a situation where 1963, we got a president. Take it back. 1964, we got a president. You know the distinction. 1963, we gain independence. Right. A year later, we became a republic. Did we really understand why we are a republic? Because 12th December was just a few weeks ago. And to many, that was a day to chill, enjoy the day, watch TV and see what the president says. And that's how we spent our 12th of December. Jamhuri Day is where we became a republic. On Jamhuri Day is when the powers of the prime minister that we had previously, the powers of the queen, who was our constitutional monarch, was given to the president, and then the commander-in-chief also became the president. What is my point? I'm saying we put so much power into one individual office that today the current president is already showing signs that it's time we revisit those powers. They are heavily concentrated onto one person that many institutions are unable to function as they ought to. We have concentrated too much power into one individual office that some of these other institutions charged with security are unable to function without making reference to the president. CSs are unable to function without making reference to the president. Why am I taking that trajectory? Recently, I've seen Onyonka, the senator, say he is not attending the
function,
the dinner, the Kisii State Lodge.
Right. And here then we ask some very pertinent questions. Was that a government function or was that a state function?
Wow.
Now, if we have a head of government and we have a head of state who is one individual, the president, then we are saying Onyonka may have been going against the head of government, but behind his head is thinking, probably I ought to join the head of state. But he finds that he's in a dilemma and says, the same head of government is the same head of state. I cannot honor the head of government while I'm trying to honor the head of state. So in the end, you decide I'm boycotting that event. It ought to be a very solemn event where you bring the nation together, address the whole nation as head of state, and say this has been our 2024. We're going into the new year 2025, and this is how we want to approach it. But then some people will sit back and say, are you speaking as head of government or as head of state? My point is, probably it's time we start saying this role that we've given the head of state, head of government, commander-in-chief in one office, it's time that we split those roles.
Right.
Have a commander-in-chief who is well-versed with military affairs to lead the military as commander-in-chief. Have a prime minister or head of government whose work is lead the government, exercise government functions. Where I fail, I step aside. And why am I taking, again, that trajectory? I'm saying, if we are at the point where someone says the government is failing, it's possible I may have started off on a very good agenda, and along the way I discovered the team players I have may not help me meet that agenda. The current situation we have is that you replace and reshuffle, but still we don't get trajectory. We don't make strides forward.
Yeah.
In a different scenario, someone would say, I started out thinking this is what I would achieve, but I'm thinking to run that government the way I want to do it as I initially thought may not work with the current situation. Let me resign. The state remains. We have a head of state, but we don't have a head of government. Then we have a new head of government who will come and say, I have no baggage politically, so I'm going to invite Kev to be my communications minister, because Kev is well versed with matters communication, as opposed to getting JP, I'm using as an example.
No worries, go on.
who is my political ally.
Right.
And I'm putting him in that position because politically he'll help me score points. So that's where we are.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm posing that scenario that maybe we need to start thinking.
Yeah.
Split that role.
Yeah.
That we've all these powers we've bestowed as sovereigns into one office of the presidency is choking the system in a way that many other institutions are unable to function.
Wow.
And because of that, it will seem impossible. It seems impossible for him to sort out all these problems that we're going through.
So
Is that what you're saying?
That's where I was going to.
Right.
That being this one person, he has to balance the political consequences of his actions, and he has to balance the performance or deliverables of what he is proposing.
Yeah.
And as we see today, the political wins more than the technocratic aspirations.
Brilliant.
So, I mean, I think that's something
Brilliant.
really profound. And I think I had this discussion some years back with my father, and he was really mentioning to me the damage that, the first president of this Republic of Kenya did by, removing the prime minister post and then merging it all to make it one center of power.
Mm-hmm.
So many people in Kenya would argue,
Right.
I think that's a brilliant way, and I think that's where it should go. But many people in Kenya would argue that would cause a lot of misunderstanding between these centers of power. Okay. We already see how the executive currently is not really in cooperation with the judiciary.
Right.
And these are arms of government. How would you think is the best way to handle? Are they going to be working in cognizance with each other? Is there going to be the head of state? Even if the commander-in-chief agrees on something in regards to a military or this country must be attacked because they are, affecting our sovereignty, who is going to call the shots in this position? Is he going to be totally the one making the decisions on his corner and getting an approval from the head of state? Or how do you think this arms, if split, would work?
Right. So thanks for taking me in that direction.
Right.
So will there be a conflict? No, there wouldn't be. Will it ease the burden on one office and other offices? Yes, it will. But let me get back to what you're asking. How do they work together? So we well know that the three arms of government are equal, and they ought to be equal. But the point where we get to when they become unequal usually starts at the finances. Who decides where the money is going to be allocated? If you're going to have a situation where the legislature, let me use the judiciary has to negotiate with the legislature, which is their other arm. You've already put the judiciary at a point where the legislature has an upper arm, is the upper arm in that negotiation, that you come and speak to us, you submit the budget to us, then we decide how much we're going to allocate to you. So you're almost, as a judiciary, at the mercy of the legislature, that you want, say, so many billions allocated for judicial matters or to the judiciary. And the legislature is saying, we've looked at the income or the revenues you're going to get as a country, and we've looked at what your priorities are, and we're suggesting we're going to shelve or chop your budget by, say, 50 billion.
Right.
You're already at the mercy. So one arm in that instance already becomes stronger than the other. So you strong arm the other arm. Which shouldn't be the case. Which shouldn't be the case. And then you have the executive, who is also the one who is going to present this budget on the behalf of these other arms. And then it is this arm of government that is going then, which is the executive, which is then going to collect or oversee the collection of revenue and then allocate it to these other arms. They will strong arm these other arms. It certainly will happen, and
that's
it
what's
happens
happening
currently. So what am I proposing? I'm proposing that we need to start looking at it this way. We have the three arms of government. They are equal. We have a head of state who is separate from these institutions, owes no allegiance whatsoever to this, is directly elected by the people. And then we must also put it very clearly, because today we don't see it, and it's something that I'm proposing, which I will share next, that we must say that all these arms of government, there are some things they cannot achieve on their own. They must make reference to the sovereigns. Why am I saying this? Look at the protocols we have in government or in state functions. Usually an MC will stand there and read the protocol and say, President, Deputy President, go either to the speakers, then to the
governors, perhaps
Chief Justice, governors. That's a protocol. I'm suggesting and let me even go further. When they finish MCAs and everyone else, then what do they say? Na wananchi wote kwa jumla and all other. I'm saying that wananchi wote should be the first.
Wow.
You start with mabibi na mabwana. Wakenya watukufu. You know that kind of protocol.
As you escalate.
Start at the top. The mwananchi is at the top. Address mwananchi first.
Wow.
After you address mwananchi first, then you say, and the president, and the deputy president. Only then will we be able to see sovereignty in action. Right now, sovereignty is at the base of our protocols. And I'm saying we need to reverse. Mwananchi needs to be at the top. Start addressing Mama Mboga first. Then you go to ambassadors and whoever. Currently, we address ambassadors first before we address the owners of the country.
It's amazing.
Totally wrong.
Just a couple of days ago, the president reiterated the fact that, what's important to him is his bid to unite Kenyans, and he's going to do that through bringing all leaders together. And that's why suddenly we're seeing Uhuru's men joining government. Raila's men got there first. The president is saying this is the only way.
Right.
We're going to sort out all these really complex issues that we're going through. Is that the right way? Is this the only option, I guess, that the president is left with, at least for the short term?
Right. So let's look at it optimistically and say he's brought in Kabogo He's brought in Kagwe. He's brought in all those that he's brought in. These are the guys who've been brought in not in the second half of the game, but maybe in the first quarter of the game. And the question should then be, as I said, I'm looking at it optimistically.
Right.
And I'm saying, okay, these are the guys who are going to score the goals in the first half, probably. We're not in the first half yet. If 2027 is the next elections, we are just now about to get to the second half. Just about, right? So these are the guys he's brought in who he says, these are the ones who will help me score those goals. The question that has not been answered is, when did you realize the team you had was not delivering? And were there consequences? Because just relieving them without providing an account of what they're supposed to deliver,
Right.
And they did not deliver this, and I believe now if I bring in so and so, they will deliver that aspect. My assessment, as I said, is that I see the political act is playing out more than the technocratic side of which we expect these new people brought in to play out. If then they have been brought in and they do not deliver, it reminds me of a riddle that I usually pose. And I ask, you are given 4 arrows. One is pointing upwards. One is bent upwards.
Okay.
One is bent to your right. One is bent to your left. And one is bent downwards. And you're given a target 100 meters ahead of you. Which of these 4 will you use?
The ones that the one that points. No. You said
It's bent upwards.
upwards. Yeah.
Bent upwards.
Yeah.
I don't think any of those arrows will really help you hit the target
All right. Why
Yeah.
so?
because the target is not
They
in that direction.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad you say that because I found some people when I pose that riddle, they say, I will use the one that's bent this way, then to my left, then I will bend it to the other direction and
Yeah.
release it so that it now gets the.
Trajectory.
A bent arrow will never hit its target.
That's true.
You must always get an arrow that is straight. So now the question is, do we have bent arrows in government? And that's why we are missing our targets. If they're bent,
Wow.
should we take a step back and find straight arrows?
Just wow. Okay, I mean, I just because I would have asked many questions on that as well, but I just want to talk about finances, especially in this country, with the issue of the debt that we have in this country, debt that we don't understand. What would you say about the financial status of this country, and how we can revamp, and what the government is not doing right to even help us look towards the right direction?
Right. So I've found that Jimmy Wanjigi has done a very good job educating us about the state of our debt. And he's taken the trajectory and said, this debt came about this way, and that's why we are here today, and we actually have no debt. And Jimmy goes further and says, the remedy is to pay no taxes. And that's when I take a step back and I ask, so how will that be realized? Pay no tax. Our PAYE is not like America. Our PAYE is deducted at source. Our VAT is deducted at source. So we have no way of intervening. Now, I would wish Jimmy Wanjigi was to pose practically how that can be done, because so far, government is laughing at that suggestion. Because he's saying, yeah, Jimmy Wanjigi can say all he wants. Company so-and-so, if you don't deliver your taxes to us by the 9th,
It's auto strike.
yeah, we're coming for you. You have penalties to pay. So that one is a proposition. It's a good proposition, but the practicality of it then becomes mute.
Correct.
The state of our debt. I like that Jimmy Wanjigi has taken us through why we owe no debt, why that debt, when we look at the books and the way he presented it, says we finalized paying whoever, and the money that they say we owe did not reach our accounts. So if that money did not reach our accounts, why are we being told to pay? I like that proposition because it's actually enumerating where we are in the state of our finances. Now, That is a question I would really wish to see someone in government answer, because none has ever been put in a situation to explain it. And if then they don't do it, the next step then, which I'm really keen on, is to say, are the sovereigns just going to sit and watch the situation as is? So that's when the sovereignty of the people has to kick in and say, what actions can we take? Remember, I posed the scenario where I said, all the three arms of government, there are certain things that will come to them that has not been written down as a remedy, that this is how you will act in such a situation. Then in such a situation, they ought to refer those matters to the sovereigns and say, as a judicial arm of government, this matter is before us, but we see no remedy that we can prescribe judicially. Executive arm of government as well, if they're functioning well, they ought to be honest enough and say, as a government, we've realized this situation has never been put to us in a manner that government can address.
Yeah.
Can we take this matter, plus the one the judiciary is saying is before them and they don't have a remedy for, and put it to the people to discuss, adjudicate, and then say, this is the way we will go forward? But most of the times you find the executive arm of government will always pretend to have all the answers.
Yeah.
The judiciary will always pretend we have precedents and everything under this sun.
Yeah.
In terms of law, we have the remedies or answers for. But honestly, there are situations where you must refer back to the sovereigns and say, this one, we honestly don't have an answer for. And we're asking you to debate it and then give us a way forward.
Do you think Kenyans have finally come to the realization, the painful realization, that you get what you invest in when it comes to how we go about the type of leaders that we vote in?
It's a good one, because just recently during this break, I was having discussions with people and I was trying to ask them, so before us, we have Okiya Matara, who is saying, I want to present myself for presidency. And in that group that we were in, of course, we were very comfortable with each other, so people speak freely, and at times, some tongues can speak in a manner that ought to be retracted. But someone said, Matara is a little rough around the edges. He's not as neat cut and all this. And my question was, are you judging Okiya Matara by how he looks, how he shaves, how he keeps himself? That's not what the presidency is about. Presidency is about the values that you bring to that office. And if you ask me, he has those values. But then again, the rationality of us as Kenyans is always there up until the January of the year of election. That's when people start looking at each other very differently and asking, where do you come from? Where do you, which party, which slogan, which irrationality evaporates in that last year. But right now we see where the problems are, we can articulate them, and we know what the remedies are. But these remedies we're talking about today, come January 2027, you'll be surprised what people will be telling you then. And we'll be wondering, is this the same guy we were having a discussion with in January of 2025? That's what happens. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yes, you have.
Right.
But I'm looking at it, I think what you also mean is we always resort to our tribal cocoons.
We always revert. I don't want to say tribal because people will always use that as the only.
Okay.
I would say we always revert to our impulsiveness.
Ah, interesting.
Human beings are very impulsive.
Yeah.
Our engagements, I use this term, every human interaction comes with the person's impulsiveness. Someone's impulsiveness may be on a scale of 10, 9. You say something and they react so fast. And they say, who are you are you attacking me? They've not understood the context of which you said it. And you find someone else's impulsive nature is at 3. They take time to listen to what you have and then make a comment. So every interaction that we have comes with its level of impulsiveness.
I agree.
Every social interaction has a level of impulsiveness in it.
You know, it's interesting you put it like that, but when you talk about, when you look at it from the Gen Z perspective, most guys, most analysts, I'm just observers, generally say, oh, you know, they're very new. They're very smart. They don't have much to lose, to be honest. They've gone through it all. They're very socially aware. They're conscious about where we are as a country. And because of that, when it comes to impulsiveness, like you put it,
Right.
when it comes to, you know, even voting, how they're going to vote, basically they're not going to use tribe, as a way to determine how they're going to vote, basically.
Right.
Yeah. So are you hopeful that Gen Zs are going to get out there in their numbers and vote the right way as is expected by most Kenyans?
Right. Now, everyone is talking about 2027 elections. And my argument is, if we're going to wait for 2027 elections, and many believe that is a silver bullet, that do whatever you do, you politicians, you will meet us on that day.
Right.
The politicians know that's what you're thinking. They know that's what you're waiting for. They know you're waiting for that 2027. And I'll give you an example. Put me, you, and JP on the football pitch with Messi, Ronaldo, and let me take Haaland, and say the three of us versus the three of you. Put us on the half pitch and let's play against them. Who will win that match?
Has to be Messi, Ronaldo, Haaland.
Why so?
Because they're very talented, they have experience.
Right.
And I think that's it. That's
They're-
what I have to say.
They're there on the pitch almost
Every day, exactly.
It's what they do every day.
Correct.
So now take the politicians and us. They politic every day. They are listening to what people are saying. They scheme every day.
Wow.
We are waiting for 2027.
Yeah.
And we're saying we're going to beat them in 2027. It will be impossible. And I'm saying if we want to see the evidence of our win in 2027, we must have short tournaments with their politicians today, short engagements frequently, so that by the time we get to 2027, we know how these guys are. And we know how we're going to engage with them. We cannot wait for that time to make that engagement. They will floor us. So we must start engaging with them now. We must find ways of challenging them constitutionally and saying, we have submitted this petition to you, Parliament. 1 week ultimatum. We want an answer.
Right.
No answer, you will see us picketing at your doorstep. And we want an answer. We'll come up with something else. Every day we must
but
find
wasn't,
things.
sorry to cut you short, but wasn't June evident of that? In June 18th and 25th,
Good.
the fact that the Gen Zs and I guess millennials as well mobilized really well. They went all the way to Parliament. They even made the president make some really drastic decisions. For example, dissolving government. Isn't that evident enough
Right.
to show that, you know what, these guys can actually mobilize and achieve certain things?
Right. And that's why at the beginning
Yeah.
of our conversation, I said the June 25th of 2024
Right.
was that moment.
Okay.
We've not had that moment ever since.
Ever since.
Right. And until we have many more of those moments, we'll be always on the back foot.
Yes.
Because today they've known how to counter the Gen Z. When they come here, put a truck there, throw tear gas when they start meeting, when the crowd starts getting to 20, 30 people, disperse. They know the tactics now. And they appear to be winning because they're saying whenever you see that crowd is getting bigger, throw tear gas there. There's no accountability. Our senators, women rep, members of parliament are sitting this one out and they're saying it's them. It's Okia Mtata.
And that's a very unfortunate part. I feel like
Extremely.
people are losing hope, people are losing touch, and also losing focus on what's supposed to be achieved
Right.
in the long run.
Right.
Gentlemen,
And
let's
that's
take a
what I'm
short
saying.
break.
Go ahead.
Sorry about that. Let's take a short break, guys. Let's take a water break. Because I love the direction this conversation is headed towards. We're still going to touch on this abduction, Manenos. Of course, also Raila Odinga is expected. Guys are looking forward to see what's going to happen after the debate. that just went down a couple of weeks ago. So there's a lot we're going to touch on in just a bit. Right now, I've got some free Nyashinsky. Now, do remember that we are hanging out with Lawi Njeremani. Yes, he's the author of an amazing book known as The Trouble with Kenya. But today we're touching on the presidency and governance. Is it really mission impossible for President William Ruto this year, especially when it comes to just turning around things? Yes, Sasawa, if you want to react to this conversation, tupatane hapo hivyo kwa hiyo hashtag After Hours on Spice. Right now, it's 9 p.m.
SpiceFM Nyeri.
Yeah, sawa sawa, isaidie tu tuko wax kama kao.